Act 1. The assignment. When I got my housing assignment for sophomore year, I knew something was off immediately. Everyone else in my friend group had already formed their roommate pairs back in April, secured their spots in the newer residence halls on East Campus. But I'd been abroad spring semester, backpacking through Southeast Asia, on what my parents called finding yourself money, and I'd missed the housing lottery entirely. So there I was in late August, standing in the housing office at Whitmore University with a packet in my hands and a sinking feeling in my stomach. Harrington Hall, room 304, the student worker said, not looking up from her computer. She had that particular brand of administrative boredom that comes from repeating the same information to hundreds of anxious students. You're actually lucky. It's a single. Most people would kill for a single Harrington Hall. I repeated. The name sounded familiar, but I couldn't place it. Is that the old building by the chapel? That's the one. She finally glanced up, and something flickered across her face. Pity, maybe, or concern. It's getting renovated next summer, so they're only filling it partially this year. You'll have the third floor mostly to yourself. The way she said mostly made my skin prickle. What do you mean, mostly? There are a few other rooms occupied, but it's quiet. Good for studying. She handed me a physical key, actual brass and iron, not the plastic card keys used in every other dorm. Check in with the RA when you get there. Marcus Fleming. He's on the first floor. I took the key. It was heavier than it should have been. Cold, despite the August heat, that was making the unair-conditioned housing office feel like a sauna. One more thing, she said as I turned to leave. Room 304 has some quirks. Old building, you know. If you have any issues, maintenance requests go through Marcus first. Don't try to fix anything yourself. What kind of quirks? But she was already calling the next student in line. I moved into Harrington Hall on a Thursday afternoon when the campus was still mostly empty. The building sat at the far edge of campus, separated from the main quad by a stretch of old-growth trees that made the August sunlight feel dimmer, cooler. It was built sometime in the 1920s, all dark brick and narrow windows, with actual ivy crawling up the walls in a way that seemed more menacing than picturesque. The front entrance had a handwritten sign taped to the door. Use side entrance. Front door lock broken, I dragged my 2 suitcases and backpack around to the side of the building, where a metal door stood propped open with a brick. Inside, the air smelled wrong. Not moldy, exactly, but old, like paper left in an attic for decades, or the inside of a grandmother's closet. The kind of smell that suggests time moves differently here than it does outside. The first floor hallway was dim despite the afternoon sun. Only every third light fixture seemed to work, leaving pools of shadow between islands of fluorescent brightness. Most of the doors had papers taped to them. Room closed for renovation, or asbestos abatement in progress. I found Marcus's door at the end of the hall. It was covered in stickers from bands I didn't recognize, and a whiteboard that said RAISIN in green marker. I knocked. Yeah, come in. Marcus was exactly what you'd expect from a senior stuck as an RA in the campus's worst dorm. Tired eyes, coffee-stained hoodie, textbooks spread across every available surface. He was hunched over his laptop, and he didn't look away from the screen when I entered. New resident, he asked. Room 304. I'm Jamie Voss. At that, he did look up. His expression went carefully neutral in a way that told me more than words could have. Right. 304. Got your paperwork here somewhere. He shuffled through a pile of folders, moving with deliberate slowness. You know, there might still be spaces available in West Campus. Hampton Hall has a few singles left, I think. Better facilities. Closer to everything. I'm already here, I said. Is there a problem with 304? No problem. Just... He found the folder, opened it, scanned the contents. The room's been empty for a while. Since last November, actually. Previous occupant transferred mid-semester. Before that, it was empty for 2 years. Renovations, paperwork issues, that kind of thing. Why did the last person transfer? Marcus closed the folder. Didn't say. Look, the room is fine. Structurally sound, passes all inspections. But it's old, and old buildings make noise. Pipes clang, wood settles. If you're the kind of person who gets freaked out easily, maybe consider... I'll be fine. He studied me for a moment, then shrugged. You're cool. 3rd floor, end of the hall. Only room up there that's open. There's a bathroom on your floor, but the shower's been temperamental. I can show you the one on 2nd floor if that becomes an issue. Anything else I should know? Yeah. He pulled a photocopied sheet from the folder. Build-in rules. Quiet hours after 10 p.m. No candles, no hot plates, no tampering with the smoke detectors. And one more thing. Don't go into any of the sealed rooms. Some of them have asbestos. Some have water damage. Some have other issues. The doors will have official notices. Campus policy is immediate housing probation. If you break a seal, got it. And Jamie. He met my eyes directly. If you hear anything weird, before you panic, just remember it's an old building. They make sounds. It doesn't mean anything. The way he said anything suggested he was trying to convince himself as much as me. The stairwell to the 3rd floor was narrow and poorly lit. My footsteps echoed wrong, like the sound was bouncing back at me from too many angles at once. By the 2nd floor landing, I could feel the temperature dropping. By the 3rd floor, I could see my breath. The 3rd floor hallway stretched longer than it should have, given the building's external dimensions. Every door except one had an official notice pasted across it. Sealed by order of facilities management. Do not enter. The seals were more than just paper. They were official-looking things with embossed university logos and what looked like wax stamps, crossed with red tape that had "void if broken" printed in repeating text. Only the door at the very end of the hall was unmarked. Room 304. I fit the heavy brass key into the lock. It turned with a resistance that felt deliberate, like the lock was deciding whether to let me in. Then the door swung open. The room was bigger than I expected, with high ceilings and a large window that looked out over the woods behind the building. Afternoon light slanted through, illuminating dust motes that drifted in patterns too geometric to be natural. There was a bed frame, a desk, a chair, an empty dresser, and a closet with a door that hung slightly ajar. And there was a smell, faint but distinct, like something had been burned a long time ago, and the scent had soaked into the walls. I set my suitcases down and walked to the window. The woods below were dense enough that I couldn't see more than 20 feet past the tree line. Something about the shadows between those trees made me step back from the glass. That's when I noticed the scratches. They were faint, almost invisible unless the light hit them just right. But once I saw them, I couldn't unsee them. Marks in the wooden window frame, dozens of them, all roughly the same length, like someone had been keeping count of something, or counting down. I was still staring at the marks when my phone buzzed. A text from my mum. All moved in. Send pics. I took a photo of the room from the doorway, careful to angle it so the scratches weren't visible, and sent it with a thumbs up emoji. Then I closed the door, locked it, and started unpacking. That first night, I learned what Marcus meant about old buildings making sounds. Around 11 p.m., after I'd arranged my things and made up the bed with sheets that smelled like home, I turned off the lights and tried to sleep. The darkness was absolute. The window faced the woods, and there were no street lights, no other buildings, nothing to provide ambient glow, just black. And in that black, the building began to speak. First, the pipes. They clanged and shuddered somewhere in the walls, a rhythmic banging that sounded almost like Morse code. Then the floor, creaking in specific spots, even though I wasn't moving. Then something else, a sound I couldn't quite identify. Not footsteps exactly, more like weight shifting from a great distance, like the building was settling but in a way that sounded purposeful. I put in earbuds and played white noise until I finally drifted off around 2 a.m. I woke at 3:47 a.m. I know the exact time because I checked my phone immediately to complete silence. The white noise had stopped playing. My earbuds were still in, but the app had closed itself, and in the absence of sound I could hear something new. Breathing, not my own. This was slower, deeper, coming from somewhere inside the room. I lay frozen, eyes adjusting to the darkness, trying to locate the source. It was coming from the closet. The door, which I'd closed before bed, now hung open about 6 inches, and in the gap, I could see nothing. Not just darkness, absence, a void where even the ambient light seemed to stop. The breathing continued, steady and rhythmic, for exactly 1 minute. Then it stopped. I didn't move until dawn. Act 2. The Others. Classes started Monday, and I spent the weekend exploring campus, avoiding my room except to sleep. By Sunday night, I'd almost convinced myself that the breathing had been a dream, that I'd been half asleep and imagining things. Old buildings make sounds, it doesn't mean anything. But Monday afternoon, when I came back from my first round of classes, I found something that made my careful rationalization crumble. Someone had been in my room. Nothing was taken. Nothing was even noticeably moved. But I knew, the way you know when someone's been through your things, when the air in a space has been disturbed. My desk chair was pulled out slightly, though I'd pushed it in. My closet door was open again, though I distinctly remembered closing it. And there was a new smell, not the burn smell from before, but something else, like ozone after a lightning strike, or the air before a thunderstorm. I checked the door, still locked. The window was latched from the inside, no sign of forced entry anywhere. I went downstairs to find Marcus. He was in his room, door open, eating ramen and watching something on his laptop. "Hey," I said from the doorway, "does maintenance have keys to the rooms?" He paused his video. "Yeah, master keys. Why?" "I think someone was in my room while I was at class." "Was anything taken?" "No, but doors or windows forced?" "No." He sighed, closing his laptop. "Jamie, I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to not freak out. Can you do that?" My stomach dropped. "Okay. Harrington has a problem with..." He paused, choosing words carefully. "Settling. The building shifts. Doors that were closed swing open. Things that were in one place end up in another. It's the foundation, the old wood. Temperature changes. It's not anyone coming into your room. It's just the building being old. That's not a thing. Buildings don't move objects. Old buildings do weird shit. He said it with the weariness of someone who'd had this conversation before. Look, you want me to check your room? Make sure there's no actual security issue. Yeah, please. We went up together. Marcus checked the door frame, the window locks, even looked under the bed and in the closet. Everything was secure. See, no one's getting in here unless they have a key, and the only people with keys are you, me, and facilities. I haven't been in your room. Facilities hasn't scheduled any work orders, so. He spread his hands, old building being weird. After he left, I wedged my desk chair under the doorknob before I went to bed. At 3:47 a.m., I woke to the sound of my chair being moved, not dragged, not kicked, carefully lifted and set aside, wood scraping against wood in a controlled, deliberate motion. I watched from my bed, too terrified to move, as the chair shifted away from the door on its own. Then the doorknob turned. The door didn't open. The deadbolt was still engaged. I checked it 3 times before bed, but the knob turned a full rotation, then turned back, like someone was testing it, learning how it worked. Then footsteps in the hallway, slow, measured, moving from one sealed door to the next. At each door, a pause, and a sound like fingernails on wood, scratching, counting. The footsteps stopped outside my door. I held my breath. Through the gap at the bottom of the door, I could see shadow. Not just absence of light. Shadow that moved, that pooled and shifted like liquid. It stayed there for a full minute, and I swear I could feel something on the other side, feel it thinking, deciding. Then it moved on, down the hallway to the stairwell, descending. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. Tuesday morning, I skipped my first class and went to the library instead, pulling up everything I could find about Harrington Hall in the university archives. The building dated back to 1924, built with money from the Harrington family after their son died in World War I. It had housed students continuously until 1983, when it was closed for extensive renovations. It reopened in 1985, closed again in 1992, reopened in 1994. The pattern continued, open for a few years, closed for renovations, open again, right up to the present. But that wasn't the interesting part. The interesting part was what I found in the student newspaper archives. November 1991. Student reports unusual activity in Harrington Hall. March 1998. Harrington resident withdraws mid-semester. October 2003. Safety concerns raised over Harrington conditions. November 2011. Another Harrington resident leaves campus. November 2019. Harrington Hall to close for renovations after student complaint. Every article was vague, citing personal reasons or safety concerns without elaborating. But the pattern was clear. Every few years, someone would move into Harrington, specifically into a 3rd floor room, and leave abruptly, always in November, always after reporting unusual experiences. I checked my phone. It was September 9th. I had 2 months. That afternoon, I found someone else living in Harrington. I'd been coming back from class, taking the side entrance as usual, when I heard music from the 2nd floor. Real music, not from a speaker. Someone playing guitar, the notes echoing through the empty hallways. I followed the sound to room 217. Unlike the other doors on the 2nd floor, this one was unsealed and had a dry erase board that said, "Alex, knock first," I knocked. The music stopped. Footsteps approached. The door opened to reveal someone my age, maybe a little older, with short dark hair and paint-stained hands. "Oh," they looked surprised. "You're the third-floor person." "Jamie," I said. "You're Alex." "Yeah, Alex Chen, art major, senior. Stuck here because I didn't submit my housing forms until July." They grinned, but it didn't quite reach their eyes. "Welcome to Harrington. It's you, me, and one other person. The others dropped out last week. Other people were assigned here. 4 people, originally. 2 guys in rooms on first floor, 1 girl on second. They all transferred out within the first week. Said the building gave them bad vibes." Alex leaned against the doorframe, studying me. "You've been up on 3 long?" "Since Thursday." "Room 304. "Yeah." Something shifted in their expression. "How are you sleeping?" The question was too specific, too loaded with implication. "Fine," I lied. "Why?" "Because I haven't slept through a night since I moved in." Something walks the halls at 3:47 every morning, checks the doors. I thought maybe it was maintenance at first, but I asked Marcus. He says no one else has keys except residents, and we're the only residents. They paused. "And the thing is, the footsteps always end at the 3rd floor." My mouth went dry. "You've heard it too." "Every single night." Alex gestured me inside. Their room was chaos, canvases everywhere, art supplies covering every surface, clothes piled in corners, but it felt lived in, human, in a way my room didn't. "I've been documenting it." They pulled out a notebook, flipped it open. Pages of entries, all time-stamped, all describing the same phenomenon. Footsteps, scratching, the sound of doorknobs turning, and always ending at the 3rd floor stairwell. "Last year," Alex said quietly, "someone was living in 304. Girl named Marissa Chen, no relation. She made it until November 15th. Then she withdrew from school completely. Didn't even finish the semester. What happened to her? I don't know. But I found something she left behind." Alex crossed to their closet, pulled out a cardboard box. Inside was a journal, the kind with a lock on it. The lock was broken. "I found this in the 3rd floor bathroom, shoved behind the radiator like she was trying to hide it." They handed it to me. "Read it, and then decide if you want to stay." Act 3. The journal. I took the journal back to my room and read it from cover to cover. Marissa Chen's handwriting was neat at first, dated entry starting August 28th of last year, describing move-in day, her classes, her excitement about having a single room, normal stuff. Then September 15th. "Weird dreams lately. Always the same. I'm in the room, but there are people here. Students from a long time ago, based on their clothes. They're all standing around my bed, watching me sleep. When I ask what they want, they point to the closet." September 22nd. Found scratches on the window frame. Definitely wasn't there before. They look like tally marks, but I counted. There are 47 of them. September 30th. Woke up at 3:47 again. 3rd time this week. Something was breathing in the closet. I'm not imagining this October 7th. Marcus thinks I'm crazy. He won't come up to the 3rd floor anymore. Says everything checks out with the room, but I can see it in his face. He's afraid of something. October 15th. I tried to research the building. The library archives are weirdly incomplete. Whole years missing from the student newspaper. But I found something in the Town Historical Society. In 1947, a student named Thomas Harrington grandson of the family who built this place, disappeared from campus. Last seen entering Harrington Hall. They never found him October 23rd. It's not just footsteps anymore. Last night, someone knocked on my door. When I looked through the peephole, I could see a figure standing there, but not a normal figure. It was wrong somehow. Proportions off. Too tall, or maybe too thin, or maybe just too still. It knocked 3 times, then left. I heard it go down the hallway, knocking on every sealed door. 3 times each October 31st. I know this sounds insane, but I think something is trapped in this building, in the sealed rooms, and I think it's trying to communicate. The scratches on the window aren't random, they're coordinates. I looked them up. They point to a location in the woods behind the building, November 3rd. I went into the woods, found the spot from the coordinates. There's nothing there now, just forest. But the ground is different, softer, like it's been disturbed and then left to settle. I think something is buried there, November 8th. It knows I know. Last night, it didn't just knock, it tried my door handle. Stood there for an hour, just trying the handle over and over. I could see its shadow under the door. When the sun came up, it was gone. But when I opened the door, there were scratches on the outside, fresh ones. A message carved into the wood. Find me, November 12th. I told campus police. They think I'm having a mental health crisis. Maybe I am. But I know what I saw. I know what I heard. Something is in this building, and it's getting stronger. The final entry was November 15th, written in handwriting that had degraded into barely legible scrawl. It got in. I don't know how. I wedged everything against the door, and it still got in. It was standing over my bed when I woke up. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. It leaned down and whispered one word, November. I'm leaving. Right now. I don't care about the semester, about finishing the year. Whatever is in room 304 is not going to let me survive until December. If anyone finds this, don't stay in that room. Don't try to find what's buried. Just get out the journal ended there. I sat on my bed, hands shaking, reading the last entry again and again. It was September 9th. I had 2 months, maybe less. That night, I didn't even pretend I would sleep. I sat at my desk with every light on, my phone charged and ready, watching the door. At 3:47 a.m., the footsteps came. I heard them start on the first floor, the slow, measured pace I'd come to recognize. Up the stairs, down the second floor hallway, up again, into the third floor corridor, the scratching at each sealed door. 3 times, pause, 3 times, pause. Then the footsteps stopped outside my room. I stared at the door, and I saw what Marissa had described, the shadow underneath, darker than shadow should be, solid, present. The doorknob turned. I'd locked it, deadbolt and chain, but the knob turned anyway, metal grinding against metal, then the knocking. 3 times, pause, 3 times, pause, 3 times, and a voice, thin, dry, like wind through dead leaves. Let me out. I pressed myself against the wall, phone clutched in my hand, not breathing. Let me out, it said again. Please. The voice was young, teenage, maybe, and terrified. Let me out. It's dark here. It's been so dark I should have stayed silent, should have waited for it to leave. But something in that voice, the desperate, broken quality, made me speak. Who are you? The knocking stopped. Silence stretched for a full minute. Then, Thomas. My blood turned to ice. Thomas Harrington, the student who disappeared in 1947. Where are you? I whispered. in the walls, in the dark. They put me here. They sealed me in. All the doors, all the rooms, they're not renovations. They're keeping me here, keeping me sealed. I don't understand. Open the door. Please. I've been alone so long. Open the door and help me find the way out. Every instinct screamed at me not to touch that door. But the voice, God, the voice was so human, so afraid. My hand reached for the deadbolt. Then I remembered something from Marissa's journal. The thing in the building was getting stronger. It tried the door handle. It got inside, and it had called her by name. If you're Thomas Harrington, I said slowly, tell me, what year did you disappear? Silence. Tell me what you were studying. Tell me what room you lived in. The shadow under the door rippled, moved, spread wider. Open the door, the voice said, and now it sounded different, layered, multiple voices speaking at once. Open the door, Jamie. It knew my name. No. The door shuddered, like something had thrown itself against it from the outside. The deadbolt held, but barely. Open the door. Another impact, wood splintering. You owe me. You're in my room. Open the door. I grabbed my phone, called Marcus, hands shaking so badly I could barely dial. He answered on the fourth ring, voice thick with sleep. Jamie, it's almost 4 a.m. Something's trying to break down my door. Another impact. The frame cracked. What? Jamie, what are you? There's something in the hallway. It's trying to get in. I need you to come up here right now. I could hear him moving, cursing. Stay on the phone. I'm coming. The impact stopped. Silence. Then, from right outside my door, inches away. I'll wait. Footsteps retreating. Down the hallway, down the stairs. Gone. Marcus arrived 7 minutes later, out of breath, holding a flashlight and what looked like a baseball bat. He checked the entire third floor, the stairwell, every corner. The hallway was empty, but my door had deep scratches on the outside, fresh gouges in the wood that definitely hadn't been there before, and carved into the door frame, right next to the lock, 47 days. Act 4. What's buried? Marcus wanted to call campus police. I convinced him not to. And tell them what? I said, standing in his room at 4:30 a.m., still shaking. That something supernatural is attacking my door. They'll send me to counseling and do nothing about the actual problem. What is the actual problem, Jamie? Because I've been RA here for 2 months, and you're the first person to report anything like this. That's because everyone else left. I showed him Alex's documentation, Marissa's journal. You know about the history. You know students keep leaving. You warned me the first day he read through the materials, his expression darkening. Finally, he set them down and rubbed his eyes. Okay, say I believe you, which I'm not saying I do, but say I did. What do you want to do about it? I want to know what's really in those sealed rooms. Absolutely not. Breaking those seals is an immediate housing violation. I'm not talking about breaking in. I'm talking about finding out why they're sealed, what they're hiding. I pulled up the building schematics I'd found in the archives. Look at this. The official story is asbestos and water damage, but look at when the rooms were sealed. 1947, 1983, 1992, 2003, all years when students reported problems. Marcus studied the timeline. You think the university knows something? I think they've been covering something up for 80 years. That's a serious accusation. And those are serious scratches on my door. He sighed, closed the file. Even if you're right, and that's a big if, what are you going to do? You can't open the sealed rooms. You can't make the university admit to a cover-up. And you definitely can't go digging in the woods based on coordinates in a traumatized student's journal. But that last part, he said it too carefully, like he was testing me. You know where the coordinates lead, I said. I know a lot of things I'm not supposed to talk about. Marcus, what I know is that every year, 1 or 2 students get assigned to Harrington, and every year, at least one of them starts reporting weird experiences, and every year, the university transfers them out, offers them counseling, and pretends nothing happened. He met my eyes. You're not the first, Jamie. You're just the first in a while who's trying to fight it instead of run. So help me. I can't help you dig up university property based on ghost stories. But you believe me. He didn't answer for a long moment. Then, my first week as RA, I was doing a safety check. Went up to the 3rd floor, tested all the sealed doors to make sure they were secure. When I got to the last one, room 310, I heard something on the other side. Someone breathing, someone moving around. He swallowed. I put my ear to the door, and I swear to God, Jamie. Someone whispered, "Help me," from the other side. I reported it. They said it was pipes, told me not to worry about it. Room 310, I said. That's the room right next to mine. I know. We looked at each other. Tomorrow, I said, we go to the woods. We find out what's at those coordinates, and then we decide what to do. And if we find something, then we have proof. The next day was Wednesday. I skipped all my classes. So did Alex when I told them what we were planning. Marcus couldn't come until after his afternoon shift ended, so the 3 of us met at 5 p.m., just as the September sun was starting to slant low through the trees. The woods behind Harrington Hall were old growth, the kind that predated the university by centuries. The air was cooler under the canopy, and sound behaved strangely. My footsteps seemed both too loud and too muffled at once. We followed the coordinates from Marissa's journal, using a GPS app on my phone. The location was deeper in the woods than I'd expected, at least a quarter mile from the building, in a small clearing where the trees formed a perfect circle. This is it, I said, checking the phone. These are the exact coordinates. The ground did look different, just like Marissa had written. The soil was darker, more compacted, surrounded by rocks that seemed deliberately placed. Alex kneeled down, brushing leaves aside. Look at this. There was a stone, half buried, with something carved into it. Not words, a symbol. The same symbol that appeared on the sealed doors in the Harrington Hall, the same one on the official university seals. This is a grave, Marcus said quietly. An unmarked grave. For who? Alex asked. I already knew the answer. Thomas Harrington. We stood there in the fading light, looking at the hidden burial site of a student who'd been missing for 78 years. They found him, I said. He didn't just disappear. They found his body, and they buried him out here where no one would look. And then they sealed up whatever rooms he'd been in. And they've been sealing more rooms ever since, every time something happens. Every time he gets out, Marcus finished. Every time someone breaks the seal. A sound echoed through the woods. Distant but clear. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. It was coming from the direction of Harrington Hall. We need to leave, Alex said. Right now. We ran. By the time we got back to the building, the sun had set. The temperature had dropped 20 degrees, and every window on the 3rd floor was open, curtains billowing out into the twilight like reaching hands. I hadn't left my window open. Marcos tried his master key on the side entrance. It didn't work. The lock had been changed, or rather, something had changed the lock from the inside. "Back door," he said. We ran around to the rear of the building, the side that faced the woods. The door there was original to the building, heavy oak with an iron handle. It swung open before we touched it. Inside, the building was dark, not just unlit, dark in a way that the exterior twilight should have been penetrating but wasn't. The darkness inside had texture, weight, presence, and it was cold, breath misting, frost forming on the walls, cold. "We should call someone," Alex said. "Police, fire department, someone." "And tell them what?" Marcus had pulled out his phone, was shining the flashlight into the entrance. "That the building is haunted. They'll think we're pranking them better than going in there." But I was already moving forward, because from somewhere deep in the building, from up above, I could hear it. My phone was ringing. My phone was in my room, plugged into the charger on my desk, and someone was calling it. I took the stairs 2 at a time, Marcos and Alex calling after me, their voices distorting in the strange acoustics. The second floor was freezing, frost patterns crawling across the walls like living things. The third floor was worse. Every sealed door was open, not broken, opened, the seals intact but the doors standing wide, revealing rooms that were impossible, rooms that went back farther than the building's dimensions allowed, rooms filled with furniture from different decades, with belongings that hadn't been touched in years, with shadows that moved independently of any light source, and in every room scratches on the walls, tally marks, counting up or counting down, I couldn't tell. My room's door was open too. Inside, someone was sitting at my desk, silhouetted against the window where cold moonlight streamed in. They had my phone in their hand, and they were calling someone, calling the same number over and over. When I stepped into the room, they turned around. It was me. Same face, same hair, same clothes I'd worn that first day when I moved in. But wrong. The eyes were hollow, the smile was too wide, and when it spoke, it used my voice but with that layered quality, that sense of multiple speakers behind the words. "You found me," it said. "I knew you would. Everyone does, eventually. Who are you? You know who I am. You read about me. You found where they buried me." The thing wearing my face stood up, and I saw now that it cast no shadow. I've been alone for so long, sealed in, forgotten. But every few years, someone comes, someone I can use. Thomas Harrington. What's left of him? It smiled wider. The university tried to cover it up, tried to seal away what they did. But you can't seal away a death that violent. You can't wall up that much anger, that much pain. It seeps out, it finds cracks, it gets into people. I backed toward the door, but Marcus and Alex were there now, staring at the thing wearing my face. "It gets into people," it repeated, looking at me with hollow eyes. Into their rooms, into their dreams, into their reflection. It touched the window, and frost spread from its fingers. I've been practicing, getting stronger, learning. All those students who left, they weren't running from me. They were running from themselves, from what I showed them they could become. "What do you want?" I asked. "I want you to open the doors. All of them. Let me out of these walls. Let me spread beyond this building. Help me make everyone see what was done to me, what they're capable of doing to each other." It took a step forward. "Or I'll do to you what they did to me. We'll leave. We'll transfer out. Tell everyone." "Tell them what?" "That a ghost is haunting Harrington Hall. They already know. They've always known. They just don't care another step. They sealed me in here, and they'll seal you in too if you make too much noise. Another renovation. Another closed room. Another cover-up. That's not... Look at your door. I looked. On the back of my door, someone had carved a message. Marissa Chen was here. David Wright was here. Angela Ross was here. Sarah Thompson was here. A list of names, dozens of them going back decades, all the students who'd stayed in this room and left, or maybe hadn't left. And at the bottom, in fresh scratches, Jamie Voss was here. You're already part of the story, it said in my voice. The only question is how it ends. Then it lunged. Act 5. Sealing the door. I don't remember clearly what happened next. One moment the thing was coming at me with my own face twisted into something inhuman, and the next Marcus was pulling me backward into the hallway. Alex was screaming, and the thing was multiplying. 3 of me, 5, a dozen, pouring out of the room like reflections spilling from a shattered mirror. We ran. Down the hallway, past the open doors that gaped like wounds, down the stairs where the walls were breathing in and out, contracting, alive. Behind us, the sound of pursuit. Too many footsteps, too many voices, all using my words, my tone, my inflection to scream threats and promises and pleas. We made it to the first floor, to Marcus's room. He slammed the door, locked it, and immediately started pulling books off his shelf. "What are you doing?" Alex asked. "Finding answers." He was tearing through old university publications, staff handbooks, building maintenance logs. There has to be something, some procedure, some way to... To what? I was shaking so hard I could barely stand. Seal it back up. That's what they've been doing for 80 years, and it's not working. Then we find a different way. Marcus found what he was looking for, a faded document marked Harrington Hall Incident Protocol, restricted. He scanned it quickly, face going pale. The seals aren't renovations. They're containment, but they don't stop it. They just slow it down, from upstairs, a sound like breaking glass. Then my voice, echoing through the building. "Jamie, I know you're down there." "We have to go," Alex said. "Right now." I thought about Marissa's journal, about all the names carved into my door, about Thomas Harrington buried in secret, erased from history. "The grave," I said. "We have to acknowledge it, make it real, so he's not hidden anymore." Marcus looked at me. "You think that'll work?" "I don't know. But it's all we have." We ran into the night. The woods were darker than they should have been, our phone flashlights barely penetrating the shadows between the trees. Behind us, Harrington Hall's windows were flashing in sequence, floor by floor, like something was moving through the building searching for us. We found the grave using the coordinates, the hidden stone with its carved symbol. I started filming with shaking hands, narrating everything, the location, the symbol that matched the university seal, Thomas Harrington's name. "Let the record show," I said to the camera, my voice breaking, "that Thomas Harrington died in 1947, that he was buried here in secret, that he existed, that he's remembered." Alex photographed the stone from every angle. Marcus was on his phone, speaking urgently to someone, campus security, maybe, or facilities management, making an official report that couldn't be buried. And then, from the direction of Harrington Hall, silence, complete, absolute silence. The flashing windows went dark, the oppressive weight in the air, the sense of being watched, being hunted, simply vanished. We stood there in the woods, breathing hard, waiting for something else to happen. Nothing did. "Is it over?" Alex whispered. I didn't answer because I didn't know. We waited another 20 minutes before we dared to move. When we finally approached the building, it was just a building again. Old, decrepit, but normal. The back door was still open. We went inside cautiously, flashlight sweeping the darkness. The first floor was empty and still. The second floor was quiet. The third floor, all the sealed doors were closed again. The seals intact. My room looked exactly as I'd left it that morning. Bed made, desk organized, closet door shut, except for the door itself. The list of names was still carved there, all the students who'd stayed in this room over the decades. But the last line had changed. Where it had said Jamie Voss was here, it now read, Jamie Voss remembered. I stared at it for a long time. We should go, Marcus said quietly from the doorway. We should leave this building and not come back. He was right. I grabbed my laptop, my phone charger, a change of clothes. Everything else could wait until daylight, until I could come back with witnesses, with help, with some sense that the world was solid again. We left Harrington Hall at 2:17 a.m. I never spent another night there. The university processed my transfer to Hampton Hall the next day with unusual efficiency. No questions asked, no penalties, no explanations required. Just a new room assignment and a housing coordinator who wouldn't meet my eyes. Marcus quit his RA position a week later, citing personal reasons. Alex finished the semester in Harrington, but moved off campus for senior year. The building was closed for renovations the following summer. They say it'll reopen in 2 years. New HVAC, updated electrical, structural improvements. I don't think it will reopen. I don't think they'll ever let students live there again. But I could be wrong. For a while, I thought we'd solved it. Whatever Thomas Harrington had needed, acknowledgement, remembrance, recognition that he'd existed and died and been erased, we'd given it to him. The haunting had stopped. The building was quiet. We'd all moved on with our lives. I stopped waking at 3:47 a.m., stopped checking over my shoulder, stopped flinching at the sound of footsteps in hallways. September ended, October passed, November arrived, and the date I'd been dreading, November 15th, the day Marissa had fled, came and went without incident. Life returned to normal. And then, last week, I found something. I'd been studying late in my new room, the one in Hampton Hall with its modern amenities and bright lighting and walls that didn't breathe. I'd gotten up to brush my teeth before bed, and when I came back, I noticed something on my doorframe. A scratch. Thin, deliberate, exactly like the tally marks on the window in room 304. Just one, but it's definitely new.